Welcome to the forefront of innovation.
Good morning. AI is not the future. AI is the present. And I don't know, it could be the hottest topic right now. Maybe arguably, maybe it's World Cup, maybe it's the war in Iran, but AI remains a hot topic and probably will for years and decades to come. So today we're taking a little different angle on AI today. We're going to talk about cybersecurity, and today's guest is our very esteemed colleague here, Mr. Luis Arango from Function. Luis, how's it going?
It's going well. Good morning, Carlos. Colombia won yesterday, so I'm happy
So
about
you're happy,
that.
right?
Yes.
You stayed up to watch the whole game?
I stayed up. My baby kept me up too, so it worked out.
So it was all good.
Just got to kind of silently celebrate. It was great. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Miami Community News, this is great. The newspaper here is awesome. Studio, great to see things have grown so much. And I'm excited to talk about AI. I think a lot of people are just as excited, but they forget some of how AI's shortcomings come into play with risk.
Yeah, people aren't looking at those shortcomings. They're just so excited about what it can do for them. And you know, Luis, I look at AI as, if not as important, more important even than the discovery of electricity. Am I off there?
No, I think you're right. And I think those parallels are great because AI is very much going to be disruptive, like you're saying, like electricity. And, you know, if we kind of put our like history hat on, when we think back to, you know, the people living through that innovative era, right? Kind of similar to what we're dealing with. You know, they went from, you know, lighting up lampposts with kerosene and like just kind of seeing in the dark that way to like a few years later having light bulbs, and then, you know, it just kind of exploding from there. But things weren't just as smooth, right? Obviously, with those innovative technologies, like in that era, they had, you know, things like blackouts, right? You heard, you know, hundreds of thousands of people going through blackouts, and electricity had its risk, right? These electricity grids were very centralized. They were well distributed, and they would cause unexpected failures. Even though the innovation was great, you know, it was brittle. People weren't really thinking about the risk as they were developing it. It was just, learn lessons. That was a second order effect, third order effect that wasn't really well anticipated. And in the same mindset, AI is in that early stage, right? Like people are just going from, I typed my email manually with all these typos. That was a kerosene kind of like frame of mind,
right,
of lighting the lanterns, to now, hey, I'm using ChatGPT or whatever to proofread my email to make sure I don't have a typo. Let me just structure this so it's a better message. Like we're at that stage, like that's like the light bulb moment. But you know, we're going through much more evolutions day to day. But you know, what are the blackouts that we're going to run into next, right? Like what's that blackout? Because even with electricity, I mean, you're still seeing, like, what was it in 2012, 600 million people lost power in India. Just this week, I think, even in South Florida, there was no bad weather, no hurricane, and multiple businesses all across South Florida simultaneously lost power. Like, well, for 3 like seconds to like 30 seconds, it was like a little strange. I got a bunch of outages.
So I'm smiling because I lived in the Dominican Republic in the 90s, and we lost power, without exaggeration, 8 hours a day, 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours at night. So yeah, I mean, glitches exist.
And imagine how critical electricity is, that it's become so vital to society. Like hospitals have to build redundancies, right? They have generators, have all of these measures in place to go and secure against those risks, right? Like that makes sense. So that kind of parallels well with AI, because we're in that stage. Like, how do you get that generator? Like, what is the generator for AI?
That's a great question, because thinking of, you know, I use it daily, all day, and I don't want to go back.
Exactly.
I don't want to go back to the dark ages. So
100%.
That's and it's incredible because it has already come a long way. Because if you were an early adopter, I think ChatGPT came out in 2022.
Yes.
Late 2022. I started using it in January of 2023, and it was all kinds of hallucinations, all kinds of
for sure.
incorrect answers. It only could scour the internet as far as 2021. So there was a lot to be desired.
Yeah, exactly. And now that it's grown so much, and like, what was it, like 4 years now that we're at? It's not much time, and like it's almost feels weird to not use AI on a daily basis for power users like yourself, who's really big in like the business marketing world, or myself. I use it as a daily thought partner, whether that's to get the second look on scripts, architecture, etc. Like, it's a thought partner, and having it go dark on you or losing control, that's akin to like an outage, right? So, I think one thing that most people don't think about is that there's a way to kind of build that generator or that risk mitigation plan for AI. So, at Function, we work with so many businesses, and we see like everyone just using AI constantly, ChatGPT, Free, etc., and all these kind of platforms, and a lot of it go unrecognized. Shadow IT, we have to kind of educate.
Explain what Shadow IT is.
Shadow IT is basically IT that's being used, software, without the business knowing about it, right? So a company might have, I don't know, some type of regulatory regulation like HIPAA or something like that, where they can't disclose certain data
Right.
for privacy reasons, etc. And if someone's using Shadow IT, like they can go ahead and ingest HIPAA information, for example, into ChatGPT about patients without even knowing about it. So Shadow IT is basically IT that is not known to the IT department. Like, it's like,
Okay.
or maybe it is known, but it's not being controlled. So like, if a user's just using ChatGPT on the web, that would be Shadow IT if it's not regulated by the
IT department. Okay.
Yeah, by using a business plan. So yeah, with that being said, even a business plan of ChatGPT is brittle, right? Because it's subject to outages. You can have problems with, if you're on the plus plan, hallucinations. You can have customers from one prompting to see how an Excel sheet can be optimized here, and then in that same pool of data, because basically in ChatGPT plus plan, the free plan, your data's like commingled with everyone else.
Right. So that's the plus plan is the $20 a month.
$20 a month,
yeah.
And with Claude as well, there's some risk there, because you essentially are sharing data across a bunch of users, and there's been already incidences where people on the internet, on X, have reported, hey, I'm getting a response from another user. So I prompted an Excel optimization formula, and I got a response on how to draft a divorce letter for my spouse or something like that. It's like, wait, this doesn't make sense. And that's because the technology is still very like new and being developed. The security is not there, and maybe they're not investing on it because it's free, right? They're like, all right, just put everyone in one data pool and see what happens. And unfortunately, there's contamination,
right?
And the risk for data leaks. So it's kind of important to be aware of that. But they have made those companies, some plans like the plus, not the plus, the business plan,
right,
where you have your own data silo. So that's better. That's a step forward. So if you're a business out there, and you're using ChatGPT, your employees are, like, it's worth investing in that business plan, just so you have that data sovereignty, have like the risk reduced there, because otherwise, you're at the mercy of hoping ChatGPT doesn't get breached, or they don't have a security incident where your chats are being leaked to someone else, which does happen. So, you have to, as like a person dealing in the security space like myself, think about things in principles, right? Like, when it comes to security, some things will never change, right? When it comes to redundancy and electricity, AI, like, you always have to have a plan B. So with AI, like, what's your plan B when you have an outage, right? So I'd like to think we should be using local models, right? Local models can either come from an open source.
Explain what open source means.
So open source is basically software that is free to the public. It usually has different licenses associated to it, like you can resell it for commercially, or you can't. But it's basically the code is open. Like anyone can inspect it, iterate on it, as long as the license allows it. But it's open. It's free usually. So with an open source model, a local model, you can actually download one on your cell phone. So being in South Florida, power outages are a big thing, and most recently I downloaded something called the Google AI Edge Gallery, I believe it's called. It's an app that lets you download Google's local models. You can put your cell phone on airplane mode and actually chat with these models, send pictures, and it'll help you. So
what are the risks, if there are any, of downloading some of this open source software?
So obviously there's risk because these models, you're kind of trusting whoever trained it did a good job on it. So if you get some open source models from China, for example, they may be, hiding some information, such as like what happened in Beijing, like 20 some years ago.
What happened in Beijing 20 something years ago?
I think basically a bunch of college students disappeared. To put it short there, but. Yeah, if you try to ask about that, the model will, like, the Chinese models will basically like act dumb. They will be like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing happened in Beijing." Oh, what are you talking about? But the U.S. models are trained to have the full history context, so you have to be aware of those risks, open and closed, right? Like these models are being trained on data by someone, right? And they can have biases, but I still think local models, open source models are the way long term, because as a consumer, as an individual, you want to have that control, right? Like just like in South Florida, we have a lot of people have generators for when the power goes out in the hurricane. I still need my fridge on, right, for at least that, right? So local models, like I still want my local model so I can ask it emergency questions like, hey, how do I start a little fire here in the woods in case I need to start a fire? Like the model will tell you, hey, what's this medicine? Take a picture of it. The model can translate it. Hey, in certain
so is this something that Joe or Jane consumer can do?
Exactly, yeah. So instead of like using ChatGPT for everything, you can have like a backup plan of a local model from Google. It's just as good for 99% of the questions you have, but it runs offline, airplane mode, and on your cell phone. But with that same thought process, like the hackers are also using that too, right? So they're like also using these local models to stay away from the government's oversight, and they're or just being detected overall, and they're using local models to create hacks, threats. And the government, being the government, most recently, I'm sure you've seen with Anthropic, Fable, they've tried to regulate.
So tell me about that, because that, for me, I think that's a first, unless I didn't hear about it before, where the government steps in and says, you're not releasing this version of your AI model. And I think it was because there were some kinds of possible holes in it from a cybersecurity perspective. Yeah,
so basically the government decided to put an export control on Anthropic's Fable models, like their latest security model, not security model, the latest.
And when you go on Cloud, it says not available.
Available. Yeah, and there's a lot of controversy over the weekend on that, because those are latest model. A lot of people spend money like on credits trying to get ready to program. A lot of outrage on the internet for that. But basically, the government blocked that company from allowing anyone who's not a U.S. citizen to use that. So Anthropic, having a global presence, said, the easiest thing is, instead of identity verification all the way, let's just shut access. And essentially, what that means is this is the first step in regulation. Like this is the first real world public example.
And I know there's a big movement to free Fable. I know there's
yeah. So I personally, I don't know how you feel about it, but I personally don't know if this is the right move by the U.S. government. I think regulation like this tends to hurt innovation quite a lot, and I don't think it's going to produce that much more safety than it is. I think it's using a hammer instead of a tweezer approach.
Right.
And I go ahead.
Does the government, do you feel, have any kind of role in this whole AI world?
I think it does. I mean, my thoughts are help protect the consumer maybe around some of the variable costs that are going to come from this demand that's coming every single day more and more. Maybe people have floated the idea of having data centers bring their own electricity generation, right? So that way it doesn't impact too much of the residential grid, etc. It's like consumers aren't really that impacted on their electricity bill, because in some areas we're hearing about triple, quadruple the cost of their electricity bill because of the AI usage.
Supply and demand.
Right. Yeah. So if anywhere, I think that government plays a better role there because it's a more like clear objective, right? Where they put the control now, it's very vague. It's gonna stifle innovation, and at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is block the model from being used by threat actors. But as I mentioned earlier, they're gonna use local models. So
right.
If those who want to do bad are just gonna do bad another way. And it's just going to hurt the innovation that can help maybe other businesses thrive, etc. But yeah.
So talking about threat actors, how has AI impacted them? What are they now able to do with AI that they couldn't before?
So I think the biggest winners here are the threat actors for sure, because they don't have to worry about like any of the controls that we have to worry about on the defense side. They're using AI now to automate their profiles on their threats. Like, in fact, now everything.
What does that mean, automate their profiles?
So pretty much all of us have been, in this culture of putting everything on Facebook, Instagram, and just data dumping everything. And there's a breach every single day. So these threat actors are just scraping all this information and creating a profile on you. Like, so let's say Carlos. Hey, Carlos runs Next Media. He has a presence in South Florida. Like, all these things are just stating from the facts. Open source, like anyone can figure this out. Yeah. And they'll start tailoring an attack campaign on you. I'm sorry, I'm like losing my voice.
That's okay.
But they'll tailor an attack on you to see if they can get you to bite on something. So the attack might be a wire fraud, right? So you're maybe buying a house and they'll notice that somehow, right? They might have already been in your email and they're just waiting for key signals like, hey, he's talking to a title company, a real estate agency. Let's be on the lookout automatically, the AI, to intercept communication and change wiring instructions. Or maybe it could be reputational damage. They'll impersonate you and your clients. And there's a lot of ways hackers can use AI to cause havoc. Like more recently, they're using it now to create malware. So the models are getting good enough to script and create malware where they can actually ask it to go from A to Z to create 0 days. So that's why Fable was so.
Explain what a 0-day attack is.
So a 0 day is basically a vulnerability and an exploit. So a vulnerability like on the system and an exploit for that system that the manufacturer doesn't know about. It's a 0 day, so they don't have a patch for it or anything like that. So like maybe there might be a vulnerability for, I don't know, let's say
Windows 11.
Windows 11, right? Yeah. That's a 0 day that lets someone have remote access and see your computer. A hacker can figure that out now much more easily. And with Fable, it was kind of like more accessible. Like the model was smarter to do that for you. But open source is only like 8 to 9 months behind. So the hacker's going to get there eventually. And these people are patient, right? They already know who you are. Knowing who you are is done. That's solved by hackers. Easy. They know your patterns now. So now they're just trying to figure out, how do I break in? Like, is like, just like someone staking out a house to break into it. Like, hey, okay, they went on vacation over the weekend. Let's go break in now. Hackers kind of have the same mindset, right? They're like, okay, they're updating their website to WordPress, whatever. All right, we know we have a 0 day for that. Perfect. Let's do damage. So the crazy thing about this is it's fully automated. Like now, like the nation state actors, the best of the best, they're taking the talents of like a few hundred very talented people and making it feel like a few 100,000 hackers, right? Like, because it's
So now they're doing it at scale.
a scale, and
So instead of going to Carlos's LinkedIn and whatever, getting into his computer, it's Carlos plus a million other people.
exactly. It's I feel like we're outnumbered. We're
Okay.
outnumbered by a smaller group, ironically, right?
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
think there's less
I get
hackers
it.
in the world than there are good people, but it still feels like we're outnumbered. And yeah, I don't know what is gonna happen with these government regulations, but I think this is not the best path. Like, I hope there's something more clarity, because eventually what this is going to breed is open source models, Chinese models are going to overtake the US market if this keeps up happening, right? Like, and we don't want to be, you know, using models that are censoring information. Like, that's
And who
also,
knows what else they're doing,
and
right?
exactly. So I think that's something to ponder on. And when you're in this world of constant innovation, like, it's good to reflect on like where we're heading. And although it's unclear, there is principles that are constant. Do I have clarity as to where my data is going, right? So a lot of people, like I mentioned earlier, commingling their data with ChatGPT. If you're like in a business, you should think about, is my data able to exit outside of where this model is interacting, right? So a lot of people set up what's called data environments, sandboxes. So if you're using AI with agents now, you can set it up so that these models are only interacting with limited tool access, limited data, so they don't cause a data leak, etc. But yeah, it's just a lot that these models can do for you. I think it's just being responsible with knowing what elements of your business are being impacted, and realistically knowing when not to use the latest and greatest, and having a plan B. Like, that's kind of like the mindset I think to have right now. Always operate under those principles.
So with AI, that plan B is the open source AI.
Open source local models. So, you know, I would, if I'm you, like, I'd be looking into how do I make sure that my next laptop that I get or device has a little bit more RAM than I would have purchased maybe before, like,
Right.
just so I'm prepared for that future where I might want to run something local.
Right.
And it's funny, Google even is now offering to like buy people's old cell phones and have them run like a cell phone compute cloud for AI models. Like, Google's trying to like collect
Interesting.
people's devices to run AI models off of them. So like, there's a shortage there, and that's why prices are going up too. But yeah, I think we as individuals can kind of control that, and I think it's good to be aware of the risk, and you know, be cognizant of, you know, all the fear mongering as well. But just remember the principles. Like, the things kind of repeat, like electricity and AI. A lot of those parallels are going to keep on happening even for the next wave. Whatever's after AI is probably going to still have similar.
It's hard to think of, wrap my head around after AI.
Same here. But I'm sure we're going to be talking about some common
quantum something.
Quantum computer. Yeah. Back up your universe before you deploy it again. I don't know. That's kind of crazy.
What are some tips for small businesses in dealing with AI and in dealing with cybersecurity in general?
Yeah, I mean, so right away, I would say a small business should have control of its identities.
What does that mean?
Like, everyone has a username and password for something. Whether that's your QuickBooks online, your bank, whatever, email. So that's like your identity, like your passport for whatever tool, platform. That's the first kind of boundary you got to be aware of, the first layer of defense. Like, and the best way to defend that is device-based authentication and multi-factor. So meaning only allowed devices in the organization are allowed to authenticate with an identity that's
employee not bringing in their own laptop.
Yeah, that's like the gold standard. Like, everyone logs in from a corporate device. It's multi-factor based. and the policy set up where no one else can log in outside of a corporate device. So that way, if a hacker figures out the password, steals the MFA, and they don't have a corporate device, they still can't get in.
Okay.
So that's like the best thing you could do when it comes to identities. The next thing is of a small business, and any business actually should have a strong idea of what a disaster recovery plan would look like. So if you lose data today, how do you recover it, and how do you get back to business, right? A lot of people don't think about that until it's like actually happening to them, right?
Yeah.
So a good example is like, okay, you ran a backup, but how long does it take to get back to business from a backup, right? And that's called recovery time objective, usually in the security world. So
what's like the benchmark there?
So it just depends on the business. So for example, a few years ago, one of our customers had an outage, and it caused like a SQL database issue where for every hour of production they were losing $80,000, right?
Wow.
So you can imagine that they're incentivized to try to recover as quick as possible, because let's say the backup takes 2 hours to recover. That means they lost $160,000,
right?
So you have to balance that risk,
and buy the hardware, what software, everything that will get it done. I
can afford losing $160,000. That's okay. Keep the existing backup plan. Oh no, you know what? I need something better next time. If something happens, I want my disaster recovery plan to account for only 30 minutes of downtime. So $40,000 I can tolerate. $40,000, and then that becomes like the way to measure that, and that's usually done with what's called a tabletop exercise. Like you go into a meeting with the executives and you kind of draft out like what tolerance they have for failure. So like Miami community newspapers, like how long can they operate with no podcasts running? Like, hey, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, like at what time is guys, like this is crazy. So you start from like the failure tolerance first. You say how much can we be down for? That gets you thinking from like the final state,
right.
And then you roll back from there and you say, okay, we can only be down for a day max. All right, so if you only want to be down for a day max, we have to consider these solutions that precisely put this redundancy. Maybe it's a secondary internet. So that way, if there's a hurricane and Comcast goes down for 2 days, you have a Starlink keeping you up for that day.
Maybe it's an off-site studio. Maybe it's
another off-site studio. Maybe it's having an off-site studio would be perfect actually for this case. And maybe it's if it's your production software, right? Like maybe having a spare machine elsewhere, right? The off-site studio would cover that case. But yeah, every business is unique, and that's kind of like one of the beauties of working in my industry, is that you get to see so many different ways of approaching.
You deal with all kinds of businesses, I imagine.
Exactly, yeah. Every single vertical, and everyone has a different tolerance for different things, right? Like manufacturing, hey, we got to keep the lines going 24/7. I don't really care if the internet goes down, as long as I can still push out my product. Internet,
right? I
don't need secondary internet. I just need my internal network good. But then you can think about like a call center. They need internet all the time because they're live with the customer. So it's good to see these different needs and wants. And with AI, like the same kind of things are going to come into place. Like the small business has to understand, like as they start kind of depending more and more on AI, those questions are going to come up as well. Like that's why we mentioned local models and so forth. But yeah, I think another thing a small business can do is monitor, right? So it's one thing to put these things in place, but how are you keeping track of what's happening, right? So how do you even know someone's breaching your network? So a lot of times,
or trying to,
a lot of times people don't enable logging. They don't monitor logs. They don't get any detection. So detection's like one of the most important things to have as a business. So you understand if there's an ex-employee who's still logged in, who's still trying to steal data from the company and start a competitor, or a threat actor trying to log in from Russia at 2 a.m. Like, how do you know this is happening, right? So if you don't put those mechanisms in place to detect, hey, 1,000 files copied from SharePoint in 10 seconds. Like, that's not a typical process.
Right.
Like, and mind you, that's a lot for a business to put in place, like, especially with all these technologies.
But that's where you guys come in. That's where you guys come in, because, you know, like where I come in, because small business owners wear many hats. Their job is to sell more, basically.
Yeah.
Produce if it's a production facility, and cybersecurity is, you know, almost a great unknown.
It's a lot because it's constantly evolving, right? So like right now with this AI podcast is interesting because we're talking about AI, and it's like every week it's different. Like, and we're talking about agents, etc. So like, from a security standpoint, we're always playing catch up. Like, it's never a mastered role. Like, you always are constantly being kept. Like,
it's like, you know, I just thought of something. It's like law enforcement and drug dealers.
Yeah,
that the law enforcement is always a step behind.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say though, like, that's kind of like for me personally, I love that. I love constantly learning, because I feel like other professions may have mastery, where, like, okay, you learn how to, you know, you can still build a brick house the same way you did 100 years, and it doesn't change. Like, I like the diversity of constantly learning, but that definitely is stressful at times as well, for especially the business owners who are like, dude, I just invested, you know, $10,000 on this network. Now you're telling me, hey, like, there's this other threat that needs to be mitigated on, and like, and now everyone's in this kind of rat race all the time. So it is difficult, I can see, for business owners to, you know, swallow that pill, but it's important. If you're going to be competitive, like, you have to be constantly aware of that. I mean, a lot of people, I think, are sugar rushed with AI and just building flows. Hey, let me hire that guy off Upwork. He's charging me $200 to.
For cybersecurity, you don't want the cheapest solution.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, let me get, so he can do the cold calling for me, and all of a sudden my reputation's ruined because I cold called all these customers incorrectly, and now I'm getting a cease and desist letter. I'm getting all these issues because this AI was deployed incorrectly. Maybe I have a customer service agent now that this guy implemented for me that's initiating refunds without being authorized, or it's leaking data. Like, so, like, you have to be, I think, as a business owner, skeptical of, you know, that, oh, hey, this is going to do it all for you. It's going to replace 10 people on your team. You're going to cut headcount. Watch, like, just sign the dotted line. Don't worry about it. It pays for itself. Like, you have to be careful with some of that snake oil vaporware that people are selling, because
what is vaporware?
Vaporware is like, basically they're selling you a promise, like the salesman's features, like, hey, don't worry about it. Q2, we're gonna roll this out for you. It's gonna fix that problem you're seeing, but this is gonna solve your bottom line issue here. Especially with AI, it's so brittle, I think, for so many use cases, but it does have a fit too. But I think a lot of what I've seen small businesses do is jump in and try to do something, but it breaks something else, or doesn't quite stay consistent. Now you're spending much more time trying to check it, etc. So you have to be, I think, strategic, and use a trusted partner, whether it's like Next Media for some of the, you know, presence online, understanding like how you rank in your socials, etc. Like, I'm sure have had customers, you know, like, want to do things like with, for example, HeyGen, and, you know, it's not a walk in the park. Like, that's
right.
Takes work.
For a while it was, I want a bot on my website. Okay, do you need a bot? How much traffic are you getting on your website? You know, that kind of thing. But
what do you need the bot to do?
What do you need the bot to do? Correct. So our time is up, Louis. I know the time went fast. If somebody needs to get in touch with Function, how do they do that?
They can reach us at function.com. They can also reach out to us to our main line.
And spell Function, because it's not.
Function is FUNCSHUN and .com. You can reach out to us there. Also, you can give us a call at our office. We're always answering, whether that's during hours or our AI agent that we actually use, 305-515-2605.
All right. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank
really
you,
appreciate it. And thank you for being on An Eye for AI. We'll see you again soon.